vast experience in engineering, government and development finance, amongst other areas in the marketplace where she's operated. We welcome you, Your Excellency Pheeha, and your 15 minutes starts now.
Thank you very much, Ayanda. Thank you, Your Excellencies. It's always such a privilege and honor for me to be with GBR. So today I'm going to be speaking about how to get out of debt. I think Sis Nomase did such a wonderful job explaining to us what debt is, and I'm not going to go into detail. I'll share from chapter 10 of my book, Money 101. And the first thing that I want to speak about is when you think about debt, it's very important for us not to think about debt outside of an entire personal finance system. Sometimes if you just focus on debt alone, you may find yourself overwhelmed. You may find yourself feeling like, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this situation. I don't know how I got myself here. Or maybe you do know how you got yourself here, but you're looking at your situation and you can't see how you're going to get out of it. So the first thing that I just want us to think about is let's pause and realize that debt management is part of an overall system that deals with how you handle your money. So if you just think about the basics or the fundamentals of a money system, there are three things really. You make money, you keep money, and you grow money. And debt management and budgeting is part of that process of keeping some of the money that you make. So personally, when I wrote this book, Money 101, I got really frustrated by financial advice that always assumed that we are making money. And I wanted the type of financial advice that said to me, if you are not making any money, this is where you need to start. Start by making some kind of money so that you can be able to budget for it, or so that you can be able to use it to budget, so that you can use it to save, etc., etc. So I just found that a lot of personal finance advice just assumed that we are making money. And we know either from personal experience or from living with family members who are not making money, who don't have any kind of business, who don't have any form of income, who have been unemployed for a very long time and don't necessarily get a stipend from anywhere, that there are people in our society who need to understand that the first step is to make money. But today, our emphasis is going to be on debt management. So just before we get to the debt management part, if you just think about a holistic system of money, I just took two systems. So in Money 101, we use the 10-10-10-70 system, which says 10% is for your giving. For those of you who tithe, that's your tithe money. 10% is for your long-term savings. 10% is for your short-term savings. This is where you are saving for your deposits. You're saving to buy big-ticket items like cars, etc. Your long-term savings is where you're thinking about your retirement. Should you die, what will happen to your family, etc. So that's long-term. So buying a car is not long-term, but that's your short-term savings. And lastly, you live on 70%. And Jim Rohn had a very similar system. You can Google it if you choose to, giving 10% again. But Jim Rohn, on the long-term and short-term savings, introduced something a little bit different, which I quite liked. He said 10% of the money that you make, you should put it to work. That is your active money. You are either buying or selling. You are either upskilling yourself so that you can command more in the marketplace, or you're getting an education. You're buying into a system that will get you more money. But that is money that you are working yourself. And then the second 10%, which he calls passive money, is money that you are giving to someone else to grow for you. Either you are putting it in shares and bonds and unit trusts, etc. But you are not responsible for getting that money to work for you. So just when you're thinking about your holistic, your overall personal finance system, you don't have to choose one of these two. What you can do is take some time, do a bit of research, and choose a money system that you will follow, regardless of how much you are making right now or how much more you will be making in the future. But our topic for today is debt. So how do you get out of debt? And here it was just a copy and paste from chapter 10, and I will just read it as it appears in the book. So here I'm reminding them, because this is something that I had been talking about in the book, and I'm just going to read it. Let me remind you that personal finance is 80% behavior and 20% knowledge, making it important to have a system to follow so that it can automate your behavior. I mean, many of us, I think, we're guilty of this, where you know what to do with your money, but you get to the shops and you feel like the shoes are calling your name. You get to the salon and you can afford the 20 rand hairstyle, but you really like the 300 rand one that you cannot afford. And you end up saying, YOLO, upilagai one, and you get the hairstyle you don't afford. Or you buy the car that is just a little above your budget, but you feel it suits your personality. It may suit your personality, but it doesn't suit your pocket. So most of us, we have the knowledge, but our behavior is not in line with that knowledge. So most experts on finances agree on either a snowball or waterfall approach. And well, it doesn't matter which one you choose, the principle is the same. So if you look at the different steps, whether you take the snowball or waterfall approach to eliminating your debt. Step 1, and this is very important, stop accumulating additional debt. Many of us, we convince ourselves that the only way for me to live is to continue to live on debt. I know of people who say they buy at Woolies because the quality of the food at Woolies is what they can afford, but they are buying with credit. So if you are going to buy bread on credit, you don't afford that quality, no matter how much you convince yourself that you afford it. So either you're going to cut back somewhere else, or you are actually going to go to a shop, you're going to go to a grocer that you can afford. You may feel it's beneath you, but your bank account may be saying something different. So stop accumulating additional debt. Work with the debt that you have. I think one of the popular saying, if you follow a lot of personal finance talks, you would hear that if you find yourself in a hole, the most important step is to stop digging. Just stop digging. Stop getting additional debt. Wear last year's clothes. Repeat the fashion from last year. You don't need a new dress for every wedding. Go and fix the tips of your heels. You don't need to go and buy new heels. Stop accumulating debt. Then the second thing is, I don't know if you've ever been to one of these churches where they tell you that you are attending a whole night prayer, and at the whole night prayer they are saying that it's a debt elimination whole night prayer. And as they are praying, they are saying, the Spirit of the Lord is going into your account and it's canceling all your debt. The fire of God is removing your name from the credit bureau. But guys, I used to attend those prayers, and the following day I check, my situation has not changed. So as much as I believe in the power, of prayer and the power of God, the other thing that I know is that God holds us responsible for our actions. The same actions that you employed to get yourself out of debt, if you use the same zeal, the same courage, the same faith that you had to believe that somebody is going to give you finance, if you use that same courage to deal with your debt, God will come through for you. And for many of us, you don't need a miracle. All you need is discipline. So make a list of all your debt, ranking them from the lowest to the highest. You can choose. Either you're going to use a remaining balance, number of months, highest interest rate. So you can choose how you want to rank them. But find a system to rank your debts. It doesn't matter what that ranking is. Personally, I like remaining balance, because if a debt is left with 2 months and I attack it first, then I can remove it from my list. Then make a table, and this is what your table will look like. This is your debt. You will have all your debts there. You'll have them there. I'm trying to get a pointer here, laser pointer there. So you'll have all your debts there. For many of us, it's more than 5 debts. And then you put the remaining balance. And then you put your monthly payments. And so here, you are not judging yourself. You are not saying, I'm so stupid. I can't believe I bought all these jerseys. I even gave them away. They are not here. You are just making a list of your debts. And now that your debts are here, you then go to your payments. And here, with your first payment, you find additional money in your budget no matter how small. I mean, you will cut down. If you like expensive coffee, you will cut down on expensive coffee. If you buy a food every day at work, you will take the previous night's leftovers and take them to work. So that however little money that you can find, you start to put additional money into your minimum payment of debt one. So you are not spreading your additional money across the different debts that you have. If your additional money that you got is 300, you are taking the entire 300 and you are putting it into debt one. If it's 1,000 rands, even better. If it's 2,000 rands, even better. The idea is as quickly as possible, you deal with debt number one. And when you are done with debt number one, you then take the payment for debt number one, the additional cash that you have, and you add it into debt number two. And then once you are done with debt number two, you have the payment from debt number one, the payment from debt number two, the extra cash that you got, and you add it to debt number three. You know, allow me to call you Bazalwane, Your Excellencies, because I feel like Bazalwane has that thing. Bazalwane, this method works without fail. You know, for some people, it may take you 6 months. For other people, it may take you 18 months. For other people, it may take you 2 years. But when you employ this method, the one thing that you are guaranteed of is that you will pay off your debts. Many people have revolving loans that they will tell you, I've had this revolving loan for the past 20 years. Why? Because they make a minimum repayment and use the money. They make a payment on the credit card and then they use that same money that they paid and then they make additional, they use that money to make purchases, to make additional purchases. With this method, you pay off a debt and you close it. If it's a clothing account, you close it. If it's a credit card, you close it. It's a revolving loan, you close it. It's an overdraft, you close it. I hear a lot of people saying, the reason why I don't close my accounts is what if I need access to the money? If you say, what if I need access to the money? I promise you, you will need access to the money. I'll give you a simple example. If a family member dies and there's 6 cousins and you are cousin number 4, and there's a meeting and they say, guys, we need to bury our aunt. We don't have money to bury our aunt. The funeral cover is only 10,000. We need people to give additional money. If you don't have access to a credit card, a revolving loan, and an overdraft, you may say, I only have 500 rand. But if you have access to those things, you start feeling like, no, but my aunt was taking care of me when I was young. She took me to school. She bought me Christmas clothes. And then you tap into the overdraft. You tap into the credit card. The next thing you know, you are back to square one. Because when you have access to debt, you take emotional decisions. Especially those of us with good hearts, you know, the good kids in the families, you tend to want to help people with money you don't have. And I discourage that completely, because when your debts are paid off and the accounts are closed, you will not be able to do that with money that you don't have. So once you've paid off your accounts, now what you have is you actually have an opportunity to save. Because one of the things that having a lot of repayments does for you and I is we don't have money to save. There's no way that you will get ahead in your finances if all the money that you get are for repayments. Even if you convince yourself that the repayments that you have are important. Because for most of us, you're paying for your bond. You've convinced yourself that, you know what, your children each need to have a bedroom. But you grew up sleeping under the table, and look at you. You are fine. There's nothing wrong with you. And yet you were sleeping in the kitchen. So we convince ourselves that we need all these additional things. You convince yourself that your children need to take Uber. You convince yourself that you need 3 cars in the house, because what if you are not there? The au pair needs to fetch the children. And because we convince ourselves of all these lifestyle needs, we remain in perpetual debt, and we constantly attend altar calls of debt cancellation. And we are frustrated now, feeling like God does not answer our prayers. Your Excellencies, thank you very much.